Welcome to another Tech Help video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I'm your instructor, Richard Rost. In today's video, we're doing date diff, but not just any date diff, and we're not even going to use the date diff function. We're going to figure out how to calculate the differences between two dates, date times, whatever, between two consecutive records in the table. So that adds an extra level of complexity. Today's question comes from Zoe in Springfield, Missouri, one of my platinum members. Zoe says, how can I figure out the time between two consecutive orders for a customer in Microsoft Access? I've got this list of orders and dates, but I'm not sure how to calculate the days between them like I do in Excel. For instance, if the first order was on March 1st and the second was on March 3rd, I'd want it to show there's a 2-day difference. I'm also curious about what happens if two orders are on the same date. Any ideas on how to get started with this in Access? Well, this is not exactly easy to do in Access, Zoe. Most things are possible, but some things are a little more complicated. Excel makes things really easy to do some things because Excel thinks in rows and columns, but Access thinks in records and fields, which is different. So how do we do this in Excel? Well, Excel's pretty straightforward. I got a contact date over here, right? And if I want to see what the difference between those 2 days is, I just subtract them, right? Because just like in Access, dates in Excel, a value of 1 equals 1 whole day. So if I come over here and I put in here like, days, difference, whatever, just days. All right, now we can't do it on the first row, but the second row, we can say this equals this value minus that value, right? A7 minus A6. And I press enter. Well, that's a 0 because those are the same. But now if I take this and I grab the autofill handle and I pull it down, all right, that pulls the formula down. I teach this in my Excel classes, by the way, if you're not familiar with this. You can see by the time we get to this one, right? Now we're A9 minus A8. It subtracts this one from that one, and the value is 3. And that's easy to do because in Excel, you can reference, the row, A9 minus A8. Can't exactly do that in Access. So how do we do that in Access? All right, well, before we get into it, this is an expert level video. What is expert? Well, that's sandwiched between beginner and developer. All right, so you don't need to be a developer. You don't need VBA to do this. It's just functions and stuff. But it's a little bit more than the beginner level. So if you haven't taken my beginner courses, go watch those. And then here's some other videos that will help you before you start watching this one. We're going to use DMax because we have to find the largest date in the table, right? The largest date that's less than today's date. That's how you find the previous one, right? So we'll do that with DMax. You should understand how date math works in Access. I just talked about it a moment ago. It's the same as in Excel, right? A value of 1 equals 1 day. So 2 is 2 days, 7's a week, right? If I say a value of 0.5, that's 12 hours, half a day. All right, so go watch this if you want to learn more about that. I do have a video on the actual date diff function. All right, here it is, but it won't help you with this example. So don't worry about it. This is good if you've got values you want to check within a record. You could use this after we do the calculation if you want later. I'll talk about it a little bit later. We'll get to this one later. You will need to know how to create calculated fields in queries. And we will use the cdate function, so go brush up on your type conversion functions if you want. This just converts one data type to another because sometimes the domain functions like DMax will return a string and we have to convert it over to a date. So this video explains that. These are all free videos. They're on my website. They're on my YouTube channel. Go watch those and then come on back. All right, this is my Tech Help free template. This is a free database. You can grab a copy off my website if you want to. I know in your question you mentioned you're using orders. I'm just going to use contacts because I have a lot more data in this table. Okay, but it works with any table, any field. It doesn't really matter. Okay. I mean, yeah, we could use orders too if you want. I'm going to stick to contacts though. So in my contact table, I got contact date, and I want to figure out what the difference in time is. We'll use the difference in days, but you can change it later if you want to, between this record and this record. Now, the first record, obviously, we don't have a record before that, so we'll deal with that null later. But this guy here, what I need to do is I need to look in the table and find the largest value that's less than that, right? And to do that, we'll use DMax, because when we get down to here, right, it's going to say, okay, I need to find the largest contact date that's less than this, and that should give you this one. You can't rely on the IDs. All right, first of all, if you sort this by ID, okay, they're in different orders because records aren't always entered in chronological order. So you have to look at the date if you want to get the contact that comes before this date. Okay, remember, auto numbers are not for you. They're for internal purposes. They're only used for relationships. That's it. All right, and to make sure that records are unique. So let's create a query. Save changes, no. All right, create, query design. Here's my query designer. I'm going to bring in that contact table. That's all we need. All right, I'll bring in the contact ID. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Contact ID, we'll bring in the contact date. And then I'm going to make a calculated field over here called previous contact date. So I'm going to click right there where my calculated field is going to go. I'm going to shift F2 to zoom in so you can see this better. Okay. And it's going to be, let's call it the previous contact date. And that's going to be, here's where our DMax comes in. Give me DMax of the contact date from the contact table where, here's our criteria, where the contact date is less than the current contact date in this record. Now remember, dates have to be inside of these guys, pound symbols, right? Hashtags, octothorpes if you prefer. All right, and then we'll add on to that contact date and close up the hashtags and end your DMax statement, right? So look up the contact date, the largest contact date from the contact table where the contact date is less than the current contact date in this record. All right, so whatever it is, January 1st, 2004 will be put in here, and that will look like an actual date. All right, it's a little string concatenation there. If you don't know how to use that, I'll put a link to a video down below about concatenation. All right, let's hit OK, and let's run it, and okay, there we go. See that? Except for the first row, because there is no record before it. There's actually a null there. It's going to cause some problems in just a second, but we'll deal with that in a minute. This guy, okay, these are all sorted by contact date. Let's make sure they're sorted by contact date. Let's sort by contact date ascending. Okay, and while we're at it, let's save this as my previous contact queue, or whatever you want to call it. All right, run it again. Okay, there we go. Now they're actually sorted properly, right? Okay, so this one should be showing this record up here, and it is, and likewise down the line, because these are all sorted by date. Everybody has got the right date there. All right, beautiful. So we're off to a good start. Now, let's deal with that null value, because that first record is going to have a null value. We had that in Excel, but we have to do more calculations here. We have to subtract this date from that date, and that null value is going to cause problems. So let's use our NZ function. NZ converts null values to whatever value you want. NZ because it's null to 0 usually, but you can put something else in there if you want to. And if you don't know how to use NZ, again, I've got a video on it. I'll put a link down below. All right, so we're just going to say here, we're going to say NZ, null to 0. That means if the result of this is null, which that first record is always going to be, what value do you want to give it? You can make it 0 if you want to, but that's the 0 date then, and that's like 1899, December 30th, or something weird like that. So why don't we instead, you don't want to say today's date, let's put in here the actual contact date itself. So the first record, we'll say the previous record is just the contact date. See that? So if it doesn't exist, just use your own value. That's what I would do. All right, run it, and there you go. See, the first record just has itself, so the difference over here will be 0. That's up to you. If you want to go from the, start date of the company, or put whatever value you want in there. These are your Legos. You build however you want. Now, the next problem you'll see, and if you've been with me for a while, if you watched any of my classes or any of my previous Tech Help videos, you'll see a problem right away. You'll see that contact date is lined up on the right side of this column, whereas previous contact date is lined up on the left side of the column. What does that tell you? Well, numeric value types, like dates, like numbers, like currency values, they all line up on the right side of the column. Text strings line up on the left. Now, why is DMax returning a string value? It just does sometimes. It's one of the flukes. It's one of the weird things about Access is those domain aggregate functions don't always return the right value because it has to look at all of these values coming in. Usually it only looks at the first one. And in this case, the first one is always going to be a null value. So it has no idea what to do with it. It just assumes string then. Okay? The domain lookup functions, max, sum, all those, right? They look at usually the first value and try to decide what the the proper data type is. So in this case, we have to tell it. We have to force it to use a particular data type. And that's why I wanted you to watch those type conversion functions. So now we got to take this whole thing and convert it to a date with cDate. And don't forget to put your close parenthesis on the end. All right. And now save it, run it. There we go. That looks better. Now those are actual date values. Because before, if you try to do some subtraction, you'd get an error message. I was going to put it in the video, but I figured this video is long enough already. All right. Now I'm going to shrink this up. We're good with that. Now we're ready to do the actual subtraction to calculate the days difference between these two. So I'm going to come in here, zoom in again. Days diff is going to be equal to the contact date minus the value we just created, the previous contact date. Right? Bigger minus smaller, always. And now run it, and there you go. There's your days diff. All right, this value is 3,140 days after the first one. That seems about right. 1994 to 2002. All right, let's find something else here. There's 43 days. All right, that's about right. All right, it's July to September. Yeah, it's okay. We're looking good. This one's less than a day. Right, 22 to 223. Perfect. Now, you could use date diff here if you know how to use date diff. Instead of just doing a basic subtraction, you could put date diff here. If you want hours or seconds or months or whatever, use date diff here and use these as your two different dates. I'm not going to go through it. You can watch my date diff video for more information. One thing you might want to do, though, is format this if you are going to keep this as a value, because you got all these weird things in here. Now, here's another quirk with Access, and I hate this. If you go into the properties for this column, right, if you set decimal places to 1, it ignores you. It doesn't, it just, I don't care. I don't give a whatever, right? It doesn't care if you put a set decimal places in here. Sammy, add that to the list. I don't know why, it just doesn't care. So what I always do is I just leave that blank, or if you blank it, it doesn't like that either. You got to put it to auto, okay? Or you can leave it 1 if you want, but it's still going to ignore you. But in the format, put 0.0. All right, that says give me 1 decimal place, basically. I got a whole separate video on the format property and the format function. You can go watch that if you want to as well. I'll put a link to it down below. But now, if you run it, you got 1 decimal place. All right. And of course, this is a number of days. You can do other math in here, you know, if you want weeks or use date diff or whatever you want to do. Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos on these D functions, like DMax, DLOOKUP, DAverage, I just did a few days ago, you'll know that I say that you should try to avoid them in queries if possible. Okay. This is the easy way to do this, but it's not the fastest way because it has to calculate that DMax with each record going down the list. Now, I only have 104 records, but if you get 104,000 records and you're pulling them across, you know, on the network or even over the internet, this will run extremely slow. So the best way to do this is with something called a subquery. I do have another video I just released on subqueries. You're welcome to go watch that and see if you can figure it out on your own. Or if you remember, stick around and I will show you how to do the subquery in the extended cut. Silver members and up get access to all of my extended cut videos, not just this one, all of them. We'll also talk about the 2 identical dates problem, right? Because if you got 2 or 3 dates in there, right? If these happen to be the same exact date, you are going to run into a problem because let's change this to, here, this one here, that one, that one, that one. See? These guys are all 0 now. And that works for these because it's the first record. But what if we do a different one? What if we say this one here is 2020-11, okay? And then I copy this down. Copy, paste, 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 paste. See? Now, each of these, instead of saying the previous one is 0, it's saying it's 214 days from the previous one. And it's not. It's exactly the same. This should be a 0, right? Because the previous one is on the same date. So that's a problem. So we'll see how to deal with that in the extended cut as well. If you like learning this stuff and this is on your level and you're enjoying it, well, check out my website. I got tons more expert lessons like this where you can learn a lot more about Microsoft Access without having to be a programmer. I know a lot of people tell me, hey, man, I love working with Access. I like building databases, but I don't want to learn VBA. I'm not a programmer. Okay, fine. Got lots of lessons for you. There's tons you can do with Access without having to be a programmer. It's one of its strengths. All right, but that is going to do it for your tech help video for today. I hope you learned something. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you next time. And members, I will see you in the extended cut. A special thank you and shout out to our diamond sponsors. Juan Soto with Access Experts Software Solutions, manufacturing experts specializing in Access and SQL Server. Sammy Shama with Shama Consultancy, a certified Microsoft Access expert who offers personalized one-on-one tutoring. And Amanda Nicole Consulting, specializing in helping businesses move from complex Excel sheets to an Access database. You'll find links to the diamond sponsors in the description down below the video. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and post any comments you may have below. I do try to read and answer all of them as soon as I can. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, which is completely free. Click the bell icon and select all to receive notifications when new videos are posted. Want to learn more? Click the Show More link below the video to find additional resources and links. YouTube does a pretty good job of hiding it. It's right down there. See this part of the description here, right? The name, the video's up here. There's a little Show More down there, right down the bottom. It's kind of hard to find. But once you click on that, you'll see a list of other videos, additional information related to the current topic, free lessons, and lots more. And YouTube no longer sends out email notifications when new videos are posted like they used to do. But if you'd like to get an email every time I post a new video, click on the link to join my mailing list. And you can pick how frequently to get emails from me, either as they happen, daily, weekly, or monthly. Now, if you'd like to become a paid member of my channel and receive all kinds of awesome perks, click on the Join button. You'll see a list of all the different membership levels that are available, each with its own special perks, including my extended cut videos, access to my code vault, lots of VBA source code in there, template downloads, and lots more. I'll talk more about these perks at the end of the video. Even if you don't want to commit to becoming a paid member and you'd like to help support my work, please feel free to click on the tip jar link. Your patronage is greatly appreciated and will help keep these free videos coming. I got some puppies to feed. But don't worry, no matter what, these free tech help videos are going to keep coming. As long as you keep watching them, I'll keep making more, and they'll always be free. Now, if you really want to learn Access and you haven't tried my free Access Level 1 course, check it out now. It covers all the basics of Microsoft Access, including building forms, queries, reports, and more. It's over 4 hours long. You can find it on my website or on my YouTube channel. I'll put a link down below you can click on. And did I mention it's completely free? The whole thing, free, 4 hours. Go watch it. And okay, a lot of you have told me that you don't have time to sit through a 4-hour course. So I do now have a quicker Microsoft Access for Beginners video that covers all the basics faster in about 30 minutes. And no, I didn't just put the video on fast forward. But I'll put a link to this down below as well. Now, if you like level 1, level 2 is just $1. That's it, $1. And that's another whole 90-minute course. Level 2 is also free for paid members of any level, including supporters. So if you're a member, go watch level 2. It's free. Okay, want to get your question answered in a video just like this one? Visit my tech help page and send me your question there. Members get priority, of course. While I do try to read and respond to all of the comments posted below in the comments section, I only have time to go through them briefly a couple of times a month, and sometimes I get thousands of them. So send me your question here on the tech help page, and you'll have a better chance of getting it answered. And while you're on my website, be sure to stop by my Access forum. We've got lots of lively conversations about Microsoft Access and other topics. I have a fantastic group of moderators who help me answer questions. Shout out to Alex, Kevin, Scott, Adam, John, Dan, Juan, and everybody else who helps out on the site. I appreciate everything you do. I couldn't do it without you. Be sure to follow my blog, find me on Twitter, and of course on YouTube. Yeah, I'm on Facebook too, but I don't like Facebook. Don't get me started. Now, let's talk more about those member perks if you do decide to join as a paid member. There are different levels: silver, gold, platinum, and diamond. Silver members and up get access to all of my extended cut tech help videos, one free beginner class every month, and some other perks. Gold members get all the previous perks, plus access to download the sample databases that I build in my tech help videos, plus access to my code vault where I keep tons of different functions that I use, the code that I build in most of the videos. You'll also get higher priority if you do submit any tech help questions. Now, answers are never guaranteed, but you do go higher in the list for me to read them. And if I like your question, you got a good chance of it being answered. You'll also get one free expert level class each month after you've finished the beginner series. Platinum members get all the previous perks plus even higher priority for tech help questions. You get access to all of my full beginner level courses for every subject. And I cover lots of different subjects like Word, Excel, VBA, ASP, lots of different stuff, not just Access. These are the full-length courses found on my website. You get all the beginner ones. In addition, once you finish the expert classes, you get one free developer class per month. So lots of training. And finally, you can also become a diamond sponsor. You'll have your name or your company name listed on a sponsors page that will be shown on each video as long as you're a sponsor. You'll get a shout out in the video and a link to your website or product in the text below the video and on my website. So that's it. Once again, my name is Richard Rost. Thank you for watching this video brought to you by accesslearningzone.com. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something today. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you again soon.